computer career actually helped me set up my resume. So with that help, I was able to land a job within the first 4 months of attending school in my computer career.
A few weeks before graduation, though, I landed my first job as a Tier 1 technician with a large insurance company. And 6 months later, I was actually working as a Tier 2 technician with a significant pay raise. And kind of like my first job, they were also very impressed that I had so many certifications.
You have to look at what you want in life and where you're at. For me, my computer career was an easy choice because they offered me a better lifestyle that I really wanted, and it was the only place that would really give me that upper hand in life.
The folks at my computer career are very caring. They really care about our success in the IT industry, not just with certifications, but also with finding a career and really being happy with that choice.
Hello, IT enthusiasts. We made it to Friday. Welcome. Thank you for joining our Friday live show. We appreciate your attendance. Of course, as always, welcome back to another episode of this Get Into IT live show. Today, we are going to focus on choosing the right college and career path that is best for you. There's a heightened discussion right now regarding the value of traditional higher education versus alternative paths like the skills trade, community colleges, certification programs, etc. And we're going to chat with a gentleman who can help us kind of better understand which options make sense and why the discussion is so loud right now. So I'm going to introduce our guest here. This is CJ Womack. You are a public policy graduate student at UCLA who's passionate about advocating for conservative values in higher education, and you've appeared on a couple of different shows, which is super cool. Thank you so much, CJ, for joining us on your Friday. And I know we only have you for a short time, so we really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm ecstatic to be here.
Good. I'm so glad. You got a busy day ahead of you. So let's go ahead and hop into these questions. And, I work on kind of the social media side of my computer career here, and I do a lot of article reviews. And a lot of the articles I am seeing right now discuss the tool belt generation, which is Gen Z workers who are right now questioning the value of their college experience. As someone that's in that demographic, why do you think this discussion is so big right now? What's driving that discussion? And actually, a lot of the articles I've been seeing say that it's mostly men who are kind of pushing this forward. What are your opinions on that, CJ?
Yeah, as both a student and a journalist, I kind of see the two realities are kind of colliding, right? On campus, I see my peers that are navigating classrooms that often lead more ideological than educational. And there's administrators who treat us less like adults and more like customers that are supposed to be managed, right? So at the same time, when I put on my journalist hat, I notice the numbers that back up the lived experience, right? Surveys are now showing that half of Gen Z graduates now believe that their degree was a complete waste of money, right? And 45% are now saying that artificial intelligence has already made their degree completely irrelevant. So that disconnect, I think, is really striking. Students are sensing that something is broken, and the data confirms it, right? College, in my opinion, as a public policy, as a master's student, still has value, but it's no longer that automatic ticket that we've been told our entire life it once was. It's now something that we're now seeing, Gen Z workers who didn't go to college are at the same unemployment rate that Gen Z workers who do go to college. So we're seeing the data, show that a college degree isn't necessarily the only path to success anymore.
Wow. You said a word that actually I've never put together, which is customer. You're being treated like a customer, which is so interesting because you are paying to be there. I mean, that's not completely out of the realm. Yeah, that's wild. Never thought of it that way. So let's talk about the financial side of things, right? This is a huge factor in it as well. Not necessarily like, well, I got to go to college. I got to do all these things. It's I can't afford it. Then college costs have, just skyrocketed. How are students and families kind of weighing those costs against potential career outcomes that you've seen in your journalism?
Yeah, I've reported this at the Leadership Institute's campus reform, right? We're seeing our premier institutions in America, colleges like Harvard, like Columbia, the schools that you dream about going to as a young kid that are costing $90,000 a year. And so families are running the numbers like never before, right? The average monthly student loan payment in America for Gen Z specifically is $526, but that's rent money, that's savings money, that's opportunity cost. Parents who once said college is non-negotiable are now comparing, tuition bills to projected salaries, right? Students are asking, could I learn this skill in 1-year program instead of a 4-year program for a lot less money? Or if I'm going into teaching or journalism, is the $200,000 in tuition debt even rational anymore, right? For the first time in decades, higher education is being judged by its actual return on investment, the ROI. And I think that that's a healthy correction. It's no longer about the humanities and about, what I call as jokingly as basket weaving degrees. As a political science major, I have no issue saying that. And it's more about the trade skills. It's more about engineering, becoming those, skills that will get you, a sense of purpose in life. That's another thing that I think that Gen Z, specifically men, are looking for: purpose, opportunity. And you're not getting that with humanities degrees anymore. And it's just far too expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that topic of purpose and people wanting to, not only just go to school for their basket weaving, which if that's your hobby, do your thing, but I understand the reference you're making here. So when it comes to people who are potentially on the fence, right, or maybe uncertain about their future path, whether that is college or trade school or jumping straight into work, however they would like to do it, what factors, kind of on top of what you were just answering, should they be considering for this crossroads that they're at?
Yeah, I'd say you would start with 3, but I think very powerful questions, right? Number 1, what am I good at, right? What are the skills that I've accumulated over my life? What do I love? What kind of life then do I want to build? Do I want a family? Do I not want a family? Do I want to get married later in life or earlier in life? And then what path gets me there with the least unnecessary debt, right? Can I become a journalist? Can I become a reporter for a lot less money than getting a 4-year degree? And then, if you want to be a doctor, yes, obviously you need the degree. But
Sure.
if you're good with your hands and you love problem solving and you want to start earning sooner, then the trades, I think, in my opinion, are obviously a wiser path, right? The biggest mistake is chasing, in my opinion, prestige or social pressure, right? The wiser move is aligning, I think, your education with your personal gifts in your, financial reality. If it's not in your, if your family is not paying for your degree, then I don't think it's necessarily smart for you to be, get hundreds of $1,000s in tuition debt. And I think truly that's a conservative principle at its core. You don't live beyond your means, and you build steadily.
Totally. And on the opposite side of things here, we're seeing a huge increase on the employer side of people who own businesses who are actually dropping that college. I mean, like major companies like Walmart has been in the news a lot lately for dropping that college degree requirement. So employers, rightfully so, are starting to focus more on skills and less on these specific degree requirements. How does this shift change the conversation about education and career prep?
Yeah, I've reported this also. Bank of America, Tesla, these huge companies, like you said, are completely dropping their degree requirements because they see that colleges are not necessarily preparing us for the workforce in the way that it needs to, right? So the shift, in my opinion, is undeniable, right? Traditional 4-year liberal arts programs are shrinking. Colleges are preparing for college enrollment to completely hit a cliff and drop off, while enrollment is rising in fields like healthcare, like business, like STEM, and the trades. For example, community colleges have grown 16% in 2 years. I went to a community college. It was one of the best educational experiences of my life because it was just more hands-on, without the tuition, in the back of your head. So, trade schools grew almost 5% during and after the pandemic, while university enrollment actually dipped slightly. So students are voting with their feet. They're choosing programs that promise stability, that promise dignity, and a paycheck that can actually sustain a life in America right now. That tells me that the future of education is going to look much more diversified than what we've seen in the past with the old model.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, speaking of the past and the old model, to kind of wrap up this discussion here, because I know we only have you for a short period of time, and a lot of the questions I feel like we've hit on already. So I want to go ahead and jump to the bottom here when it talks about evolving and like looking forward, right? We've seen what's been happening over the course of a couple of years, especially post-pandemic. How do you see the education and career landscape evolving from here in your journalistic perspective? Like, are there things that they're not reporting on? Well, what will we continue to see? And will those paths become even more diverse into successful careers? So what do you think the future holds for this discussion?
Yeah, I would say that there's really a cultural reset happening, right? So more than 50% of my peers, Gen Z, are saying that they're considering blue collar work, right? Jobs in fields like HVAC, like plumbing, like electrical, like solar installation. You can compare that to only about 23% of the general population. And the reason is simple, right? The trades are honest, they're tangible, and I think most importantly, they're secure, right? They can't be outscored or outsourced overseas, and they can't be replaced by AI. Plus, many of them, pay, six-figure, career salaries. So without requiring you to mortgage your future on student loans, to my generation, that feels like freedom. After, instability from recessions to the pandemic, I think that the trades offer something that's both timeless and future proof. So I think that you're going to continue to see the male enrollment rate in college continue to drop. It's dropped 10% in the last decade. And you're going to see that cliff happening very soon, where college students, this generation alpha that's now up and coming, say, no, thank you. I'm not going with $100,000 in tuition debt. I'm not going to be paying, tuition loans, until I'm 55. I'm going to start going to trade school. I'm going to start, starting a family early, and I'm not doing it with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. So that's what I think we're going to start seeing with the transition, with this new generation that's coming up.
Yeah, these percentages are only going to grow from here. Interesting. Well,
100%.
That's pretty much all the questions that I had. We got you wrapped up in under 15 minutes here, but is there anything else that I didn't touch on that you wanna hit on? 70 million people are skills workers without degrees. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we're seeing a good transition. I think this transition is good. And I say this again, as somebody who is in my master's degree, as somebody who's in the education field, I am happy to see that we are no longer just, blind diving into hundreds of $1,000s in tuition debt. We're starting to be smarter. We're starting to think for ourselves, and we're starting to put that forward with our feet and doing the things that, the previous generations before us didn't do. So I'm excited to see this. I think it's a good thing, a good trend. And I'm, going to continue to advocate for my generation to continue to go into the trades.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Aaron, for including that too. We've got your LinkedIn profile, your campus reform profile, and then another article about the tool belt generation that Aaron, I don't have the comments up, but I'm assuming you're sharing here. I'll click here. Yes. And a couple quotes. Thank you so much for grabbing those as well. But yeah, we do have your LinkedIn page for people that want to connect. And again, this live stays up on our Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn. So if you guys have any questions for CJ, put them in there. We will see them. And if you guys would like to connect with him on LinkedIn and any of the other places, you certainly can do so. How did I do, CJ? Wrapped it up pretty quickly? That's pretty good?
We did good. We did great. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a great rest of your, what sounds to be a busy Friday. If you don't mind sticking around, I'm going to go ahead and end the live here. Thank you so much for hanging out with us again. And thank you guys for attending the live show. We will see you next week, Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.